The MLB All-Star Game took place last night. Took about 17 hours. They had 3 musical breaks throughout the game, which
Okay.
not sure if you guys were a fan of the musical breaks. If
I
you
like the Ray
needed
Charles thing because
Yeah,
it's the
I'm not sure
Sandlot.
we needed all 3, I'll just put it that way. But at the end of the day, the American League that we consider significantly lower down the rung than the National League, pulled out a victory. 15 strikeouts for the American League pitching staff, holding the National League to just 3 hits. Cade Smith and Parker Messick both mowed down their opponents, including Cade Smith throwing a nasty splitter with Bryce Harper on a hot mic, to which they caught him saying, "Ugh," insert word we're not allowed to say. That was filthy as he walked back to the dugout. Jason, it was 3 Guardians' first appearance in the All-Star game. Couldn't ask for much better from the pitchers. Bazana didn't get a hit, but all in all, a pretty successful night for our 3 guards.
Yeah, I thought it was unfortunate with Messick that they were doing interviews the whole time he was pitching. They didn't really get into his story at all, just because, I mean, I don't think anybody in the country knows who Parker Messick is outside of Cleveland. And that was sort of a big stage for him. And they spent the whole time talking to Verlander and Mizorowski and everybody but talking about Parker Messick. But, I mean, he shut him down on 10, I think it was 9, 10 pitches. And Cade was terrific. Bull was right. I thought Cade would be able to close. Bull said he thought it'd be Chapman, and Bull was right. They stuck with Geraldus to close out the 9th. They gave Cade the 6th. He was great. He got, as Mike alluded to, he got Bryce Harper as one of his 3. It was just a terrific showing. The Guardians just flexing what they do best, which is pitching. And Bazana didn't get a hit, but whatever. That's irrelevant to it. I thought Messick and Cade were great.
Yeah, listen, when you look at it, Dustin, the cool thing about it is you look at Cade Smith, he comes in, and it's almost as if, he's an unknown. And the fact that he's a, guy that didn't get drafted, and he's a dude out here in the All-Star game cooking, just goes to show you that, I don't know what they be doing. They got some sort of proprietary knowledge, but Parker Messick is another dude we never heard about. All the guys we never hear about, they just come up and do their thing. It's kind of cool to see him do that in the All-Star game from nowhere.
It's just crazy that the guys that really were kind of like unknowns are now household names, and now they're in the All-Star game and doing their thing. So it's cool to see, but it would have been nice to see Bazana get a hit. But nonetheless, American League gets the win. Do we get anything for this or not anymore?
That was a weird way of doing. Like, didn't they have
home field advantage for the World Series?
In the World Series?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Nothing anymore, right?
No. I was thinking about this yesterday because I thought we were going to talk about this yesterday. We never did. But, All-Star games are meaningless now. Like, when we were kids, I couldn't wait to watch the All-Star game. But I think a lot of it, and this isn't anything totally revealing, I think a lot of it is just the access that we have to all of these guys. We see all of these guys play all of the time, where we didn't have that 25, 30 years ago. You saw your team play, and you might get one ESPN game and one NBC game of the week or something like that. That was it. So you never got the chance to see all those other guys. But now we're just inundated with highlights and with home runs and dunks and 3-pointers and basketball, whatever. I think it has taken some of the illusion away from these All-Star games. And plus, you don't need to watch it because you're going to see all the clips, all the highlight clips of anything important that happens anyway on social media 30 seconds after it happens. So it just takes away from the experience. The games are meaningless now.
And I think also in a weird way, if you got the World Baseball Classic is like the kind of like the Olympics plus the All-Star game, like mixed with some pageantry and, national pride and people and these groups of people that the fans that are huge baseball fans around the world. And that's kind of more of a bigger spectacle than this. Like, this is like, okay, it's All-Star game, cool. But I agree. I think people trying to make the All-Star games count, I think they're missing the point of why All-Star games counted before. Case in point, Dustin, we look at college football.
Yeah.
I mean, your rivalry, like conference games, like Iowa versus Illinois, and like that's going, like you might still get the Florida States, Miami, obviously Ohio State, Michigan's, but in general, because where we are today is not the same. It's never going to be the same.
I don't really get your point. I'm sorry.
So the point is, like, say for instance, how we talk about how this might matter. People want these types of things to matter. Like when you look at it from the perspective of they hold this theory like, oh, Baseball is
Mhm.
so like it's our national pastime. The All-Star game has to count. So they create all these rules and different regulations
Yeah.
and say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make the All-Star game for home field in the World Series. Like, dude, that's not it. It's kind of the same way when you talk about college football in a way where college football is, NIL is here, conference realignment is here, and people keep saying the game is gonna be different. The game is different, and you're like, nah, I still want my rivalries, but that ship has sailed. Like, I don't think some of the traditional aspects of sports are.
You're
going
saying
back
like
to the
Ohio
roots.
State, Michigan used to determine whether or not a team makes
Right.
the playoff. Now you can lose to Michigan, still make the college football playoff, still win the national championship.
I made that case. I wrote a column in the New York Times about that, and people lost their minds. I'm like, the playoff is going to kill rivalries. It's going to kill the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry because you can lose to Michigan and still win the national championship.
You can,
That
but
was
dude, I'm
never
telling
seen
you,
before.
fans are still a little bitter that we lost to Michigan and won. Like winning the Natty was great,
Yeah.
but there's still a little bit of something there that we didn't beat those guys.
But do you think going like this year, Ohio State runs the table, loses to Michigan, it'd be people would be angry. You still win a national championship though.
You do, but I mean, I'm just telling you how I know how Ohio State fans are.
Yeah.
And maybe it's different for Michigan, maybe it's different for other schools, but I just there is something about that game.
I guess it'd be the reverse. What if Michigan, and I don't expect this to happen at all, Michigan runs the table, loses to Ohio State, and wins the national championship? How would Ohio State fans feel about that?
If Ohio State beat Michigan,
Ohio State beat Michigan,
they won the Natty?
and then Michigan won the Natty.
How would we feel about it? I mean, I think we'd feel good about the win. I mean, obviously disappointed that we didn't get the opportunity at the national championship. I mean, listen, if we're playing against those guys every year and like I do feel like Ohio State, Michigan are probably both going to be in the mix of the playoff like almost every single season. So to tell me the game doesn't matter is kind of like I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Because this game still is going to determine obviously your seeding for the playoffs, which is important, whether you have a home field advantage or not, whether you have a bye or not, and also like you want to get the job done, like you want to beat those guys and win the Natty, like we did in 2002. And those are the seasons that you definitely look back at and you're like, it was unblemished.
I'll give you. I see what you're saying in general because I just go back and say, okay, Massillon McKinley. All right, well, we played Massillon the last game of the year. We want to win that game. And then 9 times out of 10, we'll end up playing them again in the first round of the playoffs if one of us lose. So it's a rematch. I will say, though, Ohio State, Michigan is different. That's the game. Like, that's it.
That's like Duke, UNC, Ohio State. There's a few, I think, that are I agree with Jason's point. I also don't think Dustin's right that there are a few that are over the threshold. Some of the lesser rivalries, the Notre Dame USC, for example. I'm just picking a random one.
Sure.
I don't think that has like the entrenched bad blood. It's obviously a rivalry. But if USC were to lose to Notre Dame and then win the national championship or vice versa, I don't think USC fans are crying and complaining about that one particular loss in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and I think to bring it back to baseball, another notion and thought process that I have is I don't know if this is the place for the thesis. But okay, Jason, we watched what the American League did, right?
Mm-hmm.
We watched how the American League was cooking. And we talked about for the first half of the year how the American League is the worst we ever seen. They win this
All
game.
the power teams are there. They're in the NL.
Yeah. So we watched the All-Star game, and the NL, I think they struck out like 9 of the first 15 batters or something crazy.
Yeah.
My thing is this. Is the gap between really, really good players and really, really bad players or medium players so small that from a financial standpoint, through analytics, could somebody behind the scenes be telling people there's no point in wasting money on free agents? Take the low dollar amount of people and the margin for error, you can get almost like saying, you know what, the skill gap is this small and this like
it is
minimal.
Yeah.
That I'll just go with the lower price guy.
Well, I mean, free agency, you're paying for what a guy's already done.
Right.
Whereas, that's why the small market teams don't swim in those waters because they they're going to get the next guy to produce those numbers rather than you pay for the sure thing, more or less. I don't know. I still think the National League, I'd throw last night out in terms of I still think the National League is better, by top to bottom. That just because of one game, one night, some of the best players in the AL had a good night. But in terms of how teams build philosophically, it's just the big market teams buy the sure things, and the small market teams are always cultivating the next big thing.
If I was looking at it, the reason I look at this All-Star game, and I'm like, All-Star versus All-Star. Now, granted, the American League you got 3 runs in the first inning, and that kind of propelled them to the win. For me, I look at the Dodgers versus the Blue Jays. The Dodgers are a better team. They won 4 games of 3.
Yeah.
So you telling me if my payroll is like that, and I can win 4 games of 3, I might be able to just take my chances and say we got lucky or we got a bounce here or there.
Well, that goes back to Jerry DiPoto, the Mariners. I don't know what his official title is. He runs the Mariners, and Zach Meisel and I were joking about this the one day where he just said the quiet part out loud about in baseball. I'm strictly talking about baseball here. Your goal is to win like 55, 58% of your regular season games and just get in, and then take your chances at that point. Payrolls don't matter at that point, and it's just who's playing well, who's hot. If you get hot at the right time, you can make a run. Anything can happen. And, we've been saying that for 72 years now in Cleveland, and it still hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So there's a couple ways to look at it.